What's at back of it? What's the big picture here?
Well, it's almost like there is a global plan to cut all the cattle farms and to have us all eat crickets. Am I right? It sounds like not just the Netherlands, but many Western countries are facing these plans. And the Netherlands was a country that was particularly hit hard with this. Our farmers are fighting against the new 2030 agenda that's being forced upon them. Our government is taking their lands away, and they're doing this all under the so-called nitrogen crisis, which is a completely made-up crisis, which we've also seen from our governments before. And, well, they're not having it, and they've been protesting for a long time. But our government also doesn't seem to budge and still says that those 2030 new environmental rules are sacred. That's what they said. So we're kind of curious to see now how this is going to play out and what our farmers are going to do and how they're going to continue fighting the government, because, like I said, the government is not budging.
No, you've been coming up with some extraordinary facts here. The Dutch government claims it can't afford to lower income tax because it would cost 4 billion for every 1%. I'm not sure what that is, 4 billion euros, I assume. But they're spending 25 billion on this so-called nitrogen crisis, and they're spending 17 billion on immigration. So the costs of actually making things a little better for ordinary citizens is insignificant compared to all these policies of choice to remake our society in a way it hasn't been remade for 12,000 years.
Exactly. So it's very clear what they're doing here. We have to stop pretending that this is all a sort of natural disaster, that we're facing all of these crises that nobody can do anything about, or we have to stop blaming, foreign wars happening for all of the poverty that we're facing, because the fact of the matter is that the Dutch are going to have a very dark and very cold winter, as it seems. I'm reading about families of 4 and 5 that are now facing energy bills of almost 900 or more euros a month. That's not something that anyone can afford. And at the same time, our government is saying, we can't do anything for you guys. But what they can do is spend 25 billion euros on a nonsense nitrogen crisis that they're using to expropriate our farmers, which will cause more food shortages, which will cause the price of food to increase, which is already up by 20% as well. So none of this makes sense if you think that the government has the best interest of the people at heart. But the fact of the matter is that they don't. And their policies show it. The only thing that we need to do is wake up to that fact.
Well, in the Netherlands, as in the United States, as in the United Kingdom, as all over the Western world, they seem to have figured out that they can blame it on Putin by turning him into a pantomime villain. But in fact, if it's a choice between what he's doing in the Kremlin and these insane domestic policies at home, it's the insane domestic policies that are leading to Dutchmen having 900 euro monthly energy bills, isn't it? It's what our governments choose.
Of course, it's a wonderful thing to always put the blame with someone else and to have people believe, like I said, that this is all the consequences of some sort of natural disaster or crisis. But especially in the Netherlands, we actually have one of the largest gas bubbles under our northern soil in the EU. But the reason they're not using that is because they say it's obviously, again, bad for the climate. It's fossil fuel. And also it might cause some cracks in houses in the north of the country, and they don't have the funds to properly compensate these people. But like I said, again, there's actually 60 million reserved for the climate transition. There's 25 billion reserved for the nitrogen crisis. There is 17 billion euro reserved per year for importing people from safe countries that do get all of these privileges. This is not something that they're doing, as a mistake. It's all by choice. It's intent.